Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. And welcome to this webinar on BW4HANA. Today's topic will cover the overview of BW4HANA, some of the ways that you can implement BW4HANA, and how it integrates into an S4HANA implementation, if that's something that your company has in their roadmap. My name is Jesper Christensen. I'm a senior partner in Comerit, and I have been working in the data warehousing and SAP business warehouse space since 1998, so almost 20 years. I'm calling in today from Houston. As you probably heard, we have had a lot of rain over the last 5 days. Fortunately, I'm in a location in Houston that has we've had a lot of rain, but it's not been flooded in my neighborhood. We've had high water in the streets, but not more than that. Let me know if you can't hear me well enough, or if there's any static on the line. I am using my internet to do this webinar here, so if there's any sudden outage that can happen, it's happened a couple of times during this weekend, but hopefully it doesn't happen in the next hour or so. Okay, so I'll get started on the webinar. If you have questions, there's a chat available that you should be able to post questions into. Otherwise, at the end of the presentation part and the demonstration part, you can post or questions. I'll open up for questions at that time. Okay, so I'll get started. So first topic we'll go through is why BW4HANA. Why did SAP decide to launch a new product in third quarter of last year called BW4HANA? What are some of the architectural decisions that they have made for that product? We'll look at the features and benefits, and these are the current features and benefits that are available. We'll look a little bit on the outlook that SAP has provided on future enhancements to BW4HANA. I'll share my thoughts on what are some of the main benefits that we see clients can gain with BW4HANA. And then we'll look at the implementation paths. How can you actually move from your current BW systems that you have into a BW4HANA implementation? Then we'll look at the integration to S4HANA. And I'll cover how we're seeing customers deploying S4HANA with their existing BW implementations, or how a BW4HANA implementation could be a good thing to look at in conjunction with an S4HANA implementation. And then we end with question and answers. So if you look at BW4HANA, it started, the BW application started in development about 20 years ago. And in that time, it has become more and more complex, with more and more object types, with more and more exceptions for how things should be handled at the application layer. And from an SAP perspective, that became a major bottleneck in new enhancements. So every time an enhancement had to be developed, it had to be not only that enhancement had to be tested, but also it had to be tested from an impact perspective on all the existing functionality that you had in the BW application. So it slowed down the development of the BW application. In addition, it also caused a lot of design decision work at clients on how to actually develop their content in the BW application. Another driver that I think has probably been a driver from in the past 3-4 years, especially, has been a requirement to openly access the BW data, preferably via at a SQL level. So rather than having to go through the SAP interface standards, such as the BIX connector, the MDX, etc., there's been a requirement to get access to that data that resides in the existing BW applications, but doing that with SQL rather than doing it with through the open standards, open interfaces. So that has been a big driver for a lot of our clients that really want to have various BI tools access the data in BW. And then I think one of the major thing that is driving this is that SAP is looking at the whole application footprint, and one of the things that they're looking at is to how does this fit in with S4HANA? And what BW4HANA is doing for enterprise data warehousing, or for the enterprise data warehouse application, is what has been done with S4HANA as part of for enterprise resource planning. And that is simplification, modernize how the UI looks. So get away from this old SAP GUI, which has been around now since the early 90s. So get to a new UI that is modern, that the users will actually like to use. Introduce openness, so integration of application, open up to cloud applications, and then of course utilizing the high performance of the HANA platform and the capabilities that the HANA platform has, more so than what the existing BW application. So if we look at the 4 topics that are the 4 design principles that BW4HANA is developing based on is simplification. So less object types, so it's delivered less object types, less data duplication. A lot of the legacy BW applications that we see customers having implemented have sometimes up to 3 or 4 times duplication of the same data set. With BW4HANA, a lot of that can be done virtually with modeling in HANA views or using HANA composite providers. And really looking at the object types, there's less object types to choose from. That also simplifies the design process, the development process for the BW4HANA. A modern UI has been delivered in 2 aspects. One is Fiori-based UI5 integration, plus also some native applications delivered for BW4HANA and more in the roadmap. And then the BW modeling tool in Eclipse, including data flow modeling, etc. And I'll demo some of that a little bit later. Openness, so this is mainly accessing the BW data with native SQL and also integrating more natively to the HANA platform with various types of source systems. So rather than relying on the SAP APIs to integrate with source systems, relying more on the HANA platform for data integration. And then the HANA platform provides in-memory high performance, and a lot of the logic that you see in the BW application layer that was processed on the application servers is being pushed down to HANA, and that includes access to the predictive libraries that are part of HANA and integration of R into the HANA platform, which can then also be accessed from the BW4HANA application. So if you look at the architecture overview, and this is a picture from SAP, you see the HANA platform having a integral position in the overview of BW4HANA. It serves as the database, as the calculation engine, as the data integration with smart data access and smart data integration. So all those components of the HANA platform serve to integrate with both data lake / Hadoop platforms, third-party sources such as Oracle, SQL Server, etc., and Then you have ETL tools that can also integrate directly into the HANA platform, such as data services, etc. So all of the integration can be managed through the HANA platform, rather than being managed more so at the application layer. You still have the SAP sources integrating via the ODP framework. So that allows you to integrate to SAP ABAP-based application very easily, utilizing the existing data extractors, etc., that you have available. If you look at from a modeling tool perspective, the modeling tool is what integrates into the BW application. So that's where you can build most of the object types now in BW4HANA, and more are being added to the BW modeling tool. Still, some of the object types are opening up or being modified in a SAP GUI screen, but the roadmap is that all of the object types are modeled and maintained through the BW4HANA modeling tool. Within the BW application server, you still have the metadata manager that is very similar to what you have in the BW application. The analytical engine, the OLAP engine, there's still components that are run on the application server processing, or has application server processing. The data warehousing part, so the whole management of data, management of the integration of data, a lot of that is still managed at the ABAP application layer. So that means the data flows are still stored and maintained in the application, and not on the HANA platform. So the data lineage is still on the application. You still have BW workspaces, similar to previously, and OpenHub has been extended with additional OpenHub capabilities. Integration to the to third-party tools is maintained through the existing APIs, but you can also integrate that directly to HANA Views, which is what we do at most of our clients already with BW7.5 powered by HANA, but also with BW. Then you have the Business Objects Cloud, and PBI platform, of course, can also. So let's look at some of the main features that are delivered in BW4HANA, and I'll demo a few of them. And hopefully you'll see that some of the benefits that you have. I'll go through what I think the benefits are, and also discuss a little bit on what are some of the things that we see SAP doing relating to backporting some of this functionality back to BW 7.5 powered by HANA. So from a simplification perspective, one of the main drivers there was really for SAP to simplify the maintenance process of the application, and hence accelerate the application development process for future enhancement of the BW4HANA application. But also to simplify the process for customers to implement and utilize the BW4HANA application. So if you look at the object types, so there are only a few object types that you will still be using in BW4HANA. The composite provider allows you to do join and unions. It replaces info sets. It replaces multi-providers that you currently have. It also replaces the existing composite provider on legacy databases. And this is a specific composite provider optimized for SAP HANA. It also replaces, can replace virtual providers and operational providers as well. But for that, you can also choose to use OpenODS views. Generally, we have been using composite providers in the majority of our implementation over OpenODS views. The main reason for that is that composite providers are more flexible and can be reused in other composite providers as well. And then from data persistency, the main object you use there is advanced data store objects. And they are very similar to your existing standard data store objects, except they have combined all the different types of data store objects into just one object type. And in that, you can choose to switch off change log calculation. You can choose to retain all the history of the data load into that, etc., which means that you essentially have one object type, then you can configure to to act as any of the previous object types from a data store perspective. And that is replacing info cubes. It's replacing the existing data store objects. It's replacing staging areas as well. So a lot of the persistent object types that you had previously are all replaced with advanced data store objects. What we see from a simplification as well is that it is possible now with the use of HANA views and HANA composite providers to model majority of what you previously had to do in multiple persistent layers. You can now model a lot of that, a lot of those requirements using HANA views, HANA calculation views, and then expose those HANA calculation views back as a HANA composite provider or as an open ODS view. That allows a lot of savings in the process of implementation. Many of the savings come in that you don't have to build as many persisted objects and actually load those persisted objects. And every time you have to make a change, you don't have to do reloads. You just make a change in the virtual provider, the virtual data mart, and that then allows you to have a rapid turnover from your development system through to your production system. So that's one of the things we see with that. Plus, it also allows you to cut down the data footprint in your BW system. And SAP's licensing model is still for pure BW is still based on 64 gigabyte units. So that's if you buy HANA in 64 gigabyte memory units, and of course that can minimize your license investment, and also from a hardware perspective, minimize your hardware investment. From a data temperature management process, the advanced data store objects, that is your main persisted object. You still have info objects that you can use. They are not required all the time, so you can choose to use info objects or you can choose not to use them. But if you look at the advanced data store objects, those are the objects that has majority of the data in a BW4HANA system. And what has been put in place is the concept of managing the data in partitions within that within those data store objects. So you can manage partitions to be stored mainly on disk, so be warm, that they can still be accessed through the application. They're not stored in a secondary database such as SAP IQ or in Hadoop file systems. They are stored within the HANA database, which means that from a performance perspective, you get better performance and you still get the integration that you get with the HANA platform. And then SAP has released a lot of new business content for specifically focused on BW4HANA and the BW4HANA object types and optimizations. So they cover finance, sales, the most top areas that you normally have reporting in most companies. So benefits that we see with simplification is really 30+% less development and design time compared to a legacy BW implementation. And we see that we can use less hardware to deliver the same application level of where you have the same amount of data compared to a legacy BW powered by HANA application. Okay, so let me go to the modern UI. So here SAP has focused mainly on, from a development perspective, taking all the development transactions that you have in a BW application and move those into the BW4HANA modeling tool. And you might say that BW4HANA modeling tool, why is that different than the BW modeling tool that's supported with BW7.4 and BW7.5? Well, there's a couple of object types they have added in here that are not yet in BW7.5. Some of them are being backported, but again, the development cycle for BW4HANA is accelerated compared to the development cycle for BW7.5. So some of these developments will happen a lot faster on BW4HANA, and we're seeing BW4HANA is probably now about 3 to 6 months ahead of the BW7.5 development cycles. A new query builder is also in BW, the BW modeling tool, and Fiori UI5 applications can be built as well based on the BW4HANA framework. And some maintenance applications are coming out as well, such as process chain monitoring, etc., coming out on on UI5. So main benefit here is improved look and feel. It does accelerate development time a little bit, especially I think the data flow modeling, and I'll try to show that to you here. What we see there is this process of going through and developing a data flow generally is because you only have to go to one place, and from there you can develop your data flow. It just seems to take a little bit less time. So let me try to show that. It is hard to quantify the exact benefits of this BW UI improvement. Okay, so let me I'll just start this and then I'll talk for a little bit more because I think my HANA Studio was shut down inadvertently. Okay, so I'll get back to the demo of this in a little bit. It seems that my HANA Studio is starting up. If you look at openness, here it's really the SQL access that we see as the biggest benefit. So it's simple integration to various BI tools such as Qlik and Tableau, which we see a lot of usage of, but also a better integration into SAP's Lumira and Lumira 2.0. The ability to expose your objects in BW4HANA directly as calculation views and access those with SQL, either ODBC or other connectors that some of these third-party tools have been building, it just makes it a lot easier to integrate and get access to the data that you have in BW. And there's a lot of the object types that you can expose. So you can take a query, you can generate a calculation view based on a query, and you can use that calculation view directly to access the data. There's some limitations to what type of calculations you can have, what type of functionality you can have in your query. But again, it allows you to take a query and very quickly connect via ODBC to Power BI, Tableau, etc. The composite providers, again, automatically generate calculation view, advanced DSOs, and info objects. So all the object types in BW4HANA can quickly be turned around into a calculation view that you then access from any type of SQL-based application. In addition, you can take those calculation views and build other calculation views on top of those. And that allows you to take a calculation view that has been generated and build a calculation view that maybe joins multiple calculation views together or unions calculation views or does additional calculations on those views and then expose those into other applications. From the BW application layer, you can also generate some of the security in BW or in HANA, which means you can generate users, you can assign roles to users based on your BW security setup. And this allows some quick turnaround on getting the access in place for a BW4HANA implementation where you want to use direct access to the calculation views. And then an additional thing that's been done in HANA specifically is if you build data flows in the native HANA schemas, you can build those, and there's a new native HANA DSO that allows you for calculating change logs, etc., that you have in the advanced in BW. So that allows you for an integration of a native HANA data warehouse with a BW4HANA application and integrate these two and have some of the capabilities across these two platforms. So again, benefits of simpler integration of BI tools, and we see that being one of the major benefits, and then better performance for some of these tools. So tools like Tableau, Power BI, connecting to a HANA calculation view perform very, very well compared to connecting to MDX or BIX. Okay, let me see if my HANA Studio is up and running. Okay, it is. So here is my BW modeling tool, and I'll just connect to BW HANA system we have. So if I look at some of our objects we have developed here, I'll just take a simple flow here. So this is a sales records flow. As you see here, it's a flat file is being loaded in. The way the data source is defined is still today, it's still via an ABAP screen or SAP GUI screen. But here, that hasn't changed a whole lot. That is being moved into BW4HANA sometime during this year. I think Q4 is when it's supposed to be released. You have an advanced DSO object, and you have a HANA provider. And essentially, if you want to make a connection between these, you draw the line. Now you have made the connection. It says there's one transformation. It's not maintained yet. It's not activated. There's no DTPs in this flow, and I can then go in and I can, and here my data store object is not, it's just a container for the data store object. I haven't really defined it yet, and I can then go in and create that based on a template from my source, and that'll generate a proposal for my DSO. I won't go through all the steps here. Similar to that, you have the query builder, so you can go in and build a query. So that will open up, and I'll build a test query here. And I'll just build that on this advanced DSO. Maybe that one doesn't exist. That's not active. Take another one. Okay, let's take this one here. I then have all the query designer capabilities available in my query builder directly inside the same UI as what I use for developing my data flows, etc. One of the drawbacks we have seen from this deployment in Eclipse is generally that a lot of the deployments that you have today of the BEX tools is together with either it's integrating with Excel or it's as a single deployment of the BEX tools. Here it's a deployment of HANA Studio combined with additional installation components in HANA Studio. So it's a little bit of a complex process to deploy this out to a mass user audience. And that's one of the drawbacks we have seen with deploying the new query builder in Eclipse. But apart from that, you have all the capabilities here. It has a preview capability as well. So once you have built your query, so if I do my sheet definition here, I can add in, so let me show the info provider view here. I can add in my different columns, my different rows, and I can then do a preview. Save this first. Preview of my query, and that'll generate again in the same interface. So a very nice integration for a developer. I would say less so nice from a perspective, maybe from a deployment out to a mass user audience, maybe a little bit less nice for a mass user audience because of the deployment difficulty. And Eclipse is more of a developer tool, not really a good end user tool. Okay, back to the presentation here. So we talked about openness. Let's move on to the next, which is high performance. So BW powered by HANA already does a lot of these push downs of logic to the HANA database from BW. So exception aggregations, etc., are all pushed down at this point to the HANA database. Some of the additional things that are being pushed down in BW4HANA that are in the roadmap is currency conversions, unit of measure conversions that are also being pushed. An additional use that has been put in place with BW4HANA is streaming data load. That allows you to continuously, or more or less continuously, load data into your BW4HANA application using streaming data sources. This allows for near real-time reporting in BW4HANA. You can also utilize SLT and load that into the HANA database and then build HANA composite providers on top of that. And that we see, either SLT or SDI, we see that as a much more prevalent use case for utilizing the power of HANA together with the BW application layer. So loading in the data with SLT, modeling HANA views, and then exposing those to HANA composite providers allows you to get real-time reporting with real-time replication, either with SDI or SLT. Okay, so what are the ways to move from your current system or move into an implementation of BW4HANA? So there are really two main implementation scenarios we see. One is a system conversion. Take an existing SAP BW system, either powered by HANA or on any database, and move that to BW4HANA, or as a new implementation. And if we look at the system conversion, there's two avenues there. One is migrate an existing system in full and take all the content of that existing system into BW4HANA. And the other option is consolidate or carve out, to take multiple BW systems, consolidate them into a BW4HANA, or carve out certain application areas that are critical and move those into BW4HANA. The most prevalent implementation scenario we have right now is new implementation. So most of the BW4HANA implementations right now have been based on new implementations of BW4HANA. And the main reason for that is the system conversion processes are or have been under development by SAP and are still being developed and improved by SAP. Migrating an existing system requires that all the object types are converted to just the object types that are allowed in BW4HANA. And then after that, you can do a conversion of the system from BW powered by HANA to BW4HANA. It requires the system is 7.5, it is powered by HANA, it has the BW4HANA starter add-on installed, and then you can go through the process of converting every single object you have in the system. So that is a little bit of a daunting task for a lot of existing BW customers. The new implementation does allow now with the BW4HANA transfer toolbox, allows some of the content from legacy databases or legacy BW applications to be transported into BW4HANA and converted in that process. I'll go through that a little bit here. So the conversion toolbox, or the transfer toolbox, allows for the two different conversion processes in place. So convert the whole system, or a remote conversion, which allows you to take transport of content, so transport of existing content in a BW system, and move that to a new BW4HANA system. Now that requires that you have two BW system, a legacy BW and a new BW4HANA system running in parallel for a period of time. A lot of our customers are not looking forward to that, so they see that as a non-option. The in-place conversion requires that you first grade and migrate to BW 7.5 powered by HANA. And we see that as a much more likely scenario for moving to BW4HANA. Main reason there, you get a lot of benefits of just being on BW powered by HANA 7.5 compared to being on 7.0 or 7.3 on Oracle or SQL Server. So, and those are normally shorter projects that you can do fairly quickly. And then you can go through the in-place conversion process using the conversion toolbox and convert the data flows one by one, get them ready, test them, move them to production. So that is a more likely process. Some of the tools that are available is a data transfer tool. So this allows you to take an existing data flow that you have in your system and convert that to another data flow, a copy of that data flow that is HANA compliant. So that means that your object types that you have, let's say you have a standard DSO and a standard cube, and then you have a multi-provider, those objects will be converted into HANA compliant objects. So data store objects will be converted into advanced data store objects. Info cubes will be converted into advanced data store objects. Multi-providers will be converted into HANA composite providers. Composite providers that you could create on any database in 7.3 are converted into HANA composite providers as well. And hybrid providers are converted into advanced data store objects. So it doesn't transfer everything, but it transfers the majority of your data flow into a HANA compliant data flow. More details for this process is available in the SAP note mentioned here. And this allows you to pick and choose the object that you want to transfer and that you want to move to a BW4HANA compliant process. You can choose those, transfer those, and then test them and move them to production. There's also a tool to convert multi-providers to HANA composite providers. This tool is probably used a lot more than the previous tool. This will actually allow you to take an existing multi-provider, keep the same name, keep the same queries, so no disruption to the existing queries, and hence very little disruption to the end users. There are some limitations to this tool on scenarios where you have mapping of navigational attributes, etc., that are not a one-to-one mapping in multi-providers. Those will have to have some manual work done to get those to work. But the good thing here is you take an existing multi-provider and convert it to a HANA composite provider with as little disruption as possible to your end users. Okay, so that's there's more on this HANA conversion process in this SAP note I also mentioned previously. And then, of course, you can do a new installation, and the new installation process is fairly straightforward. There are less components in a BW4HANA server implementation installation than what you have in the BW powered by HANA. So again, here SWPM, so software provisioning manager, use that. You download the software, you install the BW4HANA 1.0 system. This is the option that's best suited for companies that does not have an existing SAP BW system. And of course, if you are going with the carve out or this consolidation or the remote conversion of your BW system, you also have to install a new BW4HANA system. Okay, let's look at the integration with S4HANA, and then we'll go into question and answers. So if we look at the one of the big questions we get from a lot of our clients when we talk about BW and the implementation of either BW powered by HANA or BW4HANA is, how does this look when my company moves to S4HANA? Do I still need BW? Is there still a need for this data replication to a BW application? And the answer to that is mostly there's still a need for a data warehouse, for an enterprise data warehouse, and that is really what BW does. That's what BW can be used for as well. So if you look at a BW enterprise data warehouse and analytics, it's addressing strategic and tactical analytics, integration of data, harmonization of data across multiple platforms, not just an S4HANA system, but also other applications that are used in your enterprise. So this is something that you probably do not want to take all this enterprise data from around your organization and integrate that into your S4HANA system. It can do complete planning. It has integration to complete planning and analytics suite. So it has BPC. It has integration with the BI platform and to other third-party tools. You can do a lot of that from your S4HANA system as well. but it's not recommended to do corporate-wide planning in S4HANA. And then from a data lifecycle perspective, it has the whole data lifecycle management built in with the data lifecycle of the persisted data in advanced DSOs to warm, hot in memory in HANA, warm on disk in HANA, and cold or in either SAP IQ or Hadoop. All of that can be managed from within the SAP BW application or BW4HANA application. What you see a lot in S4HANA implementations is use of embedded analytics. And we see that for a lot of the implementations, it is taking over the operational and real-time requirements that you have in your current BW applications. So we generally see a 40 to 45% of content that you have in your BW application can probably be moved back to S4HANA with embedded analytics or HANA views on your new S4HANA system, rather than continuing the process of replicating that data to BW. So that also means that when you're going through an S4HANA implementation, you will generally have a review of your application and say, what analytics do I have here that can be moved back to my S4HANA system? If it's only getting data from S4HANA, you might as well look at getting that data and that analytics moved closer to where the data resides. You can still do modeling in S4HANA, so you can still build HANA views, you can still extend existing analytics view that are in S4HANA, and you can do a lot of things you can do in BW4HANA as well. And there is a BW7.5 embedded in S4HANA. It doesn't have necessarily all the capabilities that are being developed in BW4HANA. S4HANA analytics very much focused on S4HANA data, so it's built for in all your corporate-wide data into S4HANA. And then it has planning capabilities, but again, not a corporate-wide planning solution. That's not how it is thought to be used. One of the good things with S4HANA implementations that we've been involved in is that all the extractors, except a few, are still working for BW, which means that when you move your existing legacy ERP system to S4HANA, majority of the extractors, and I'll say probably about 96, 97% of them, are still working as they did before. So that means very little disruption in your analytics data flow if you are using SAP BW continuing after your S4HANA implementation. The custom developed extractors, you should verify those. Again, majority of them will work. Some of them will not work, especially if they are built on objects that are no longer existing in S4HANA. So there's some of these old LIS data sources, etc. They are not supported in S4HANA. So keeping your BW powered by HANA is less disruptive from an analytics perspective and less cost than trying to re-implement all that analytics that you have in a new enterprise data warehouse solution or as native HANA analytics, or trying to integrate all this non-SAP data into your S4HANA system. So we see still BW have a place in your BW on your S4HANA implementations. Okay, so that's the end of the presentation part. So there's some different sources here from SAP. Again, SAP is updating this continuously. You will see an update of the roadmap about every 3 months, every 3 to 4 months. The functional scope document has a lot of details on the installation and implementation of BW4HANA. I didn't mention that the book that we just released some months ago, the BW4HANA, an introduction book. So that is definitely also a good guide to go through all the capabilities that you have in BW4HANA. What are some of the things that you have in BW4HANA that you don't have in BW powered by HANA today? So I think that's the end of the presentation. Let me see if there are any questions in the chat already. So is it possible to convert BEX queries? And the BEX queries that you have today, they will open up in the new query tool in Eclipse. There's not really any conversion process for that. The BEX queries are available as soon as the object is as soon as you open it up in the new query builder. So another question here, can you access calculation views using external ETL tools? So yes, that is technically possible. I think from a license requirement perspective, that's still something to work out with SAP. So from the latest discussions I've had with SAP on this, there is no requirement to have an additional license beyond beyond the BW powered by HANA license to access calculation views directly from external sources, as long as it is not an online user interaction with the HANA database. You can load the data to other applications. But again, something you need to check with your SAP account executive on the details of your license agreement. Okay, so BEX queries are used in dashboards. Do you need to convert existing BEX reports? So yeah, the BEX queries, again, if you convert to BW4HANA, depending on the process of conversion, if you use the transfer tool, the transfer toolbox, it allows you to take the existing data flows, build a copy data flow, and then one of the things that is still, I think, being developed from last time I looked, is a tool that also moves the queries over. We at Comerit have a tool that does that. So if you have a flow that you're built based on an existing non-HANA BW4HANA compliant object, we can convert the tools or move the queries essentially from let's say an InfoCube or a multi-provider. We can move those over to a HANA composite provider, or if you have them on InfoCube, we can move them as well. So this is a tool that takes an existing query and just moves it between info providers. So there's no need to rebuild everything, including your dashboards. Okay, so in place migration. So the only object type that right now can be maintained with the exact same name is HANA composite provider, so multi-provider to HANA composite provider conversion, and that allows for majority of queries to be copied over as well, as long as you build them on a multi-provider. Again, the tool we have can also take that, and if you have your queries built on a DSO or on a cube, we can also move those queries over. And then a question, does the star schema still exist? So it doesn't really exist the way that you have it with InfoCubes today. So with InfoCubes today, you have, if you are not on BW powered by HANA, you are on you have an extended star schema with dimension tables and SID tables linking out to the master data, etc. Already with BW powered by HANA, that has been simplified. The dimension tables are gone, and you're essentially linking directly from a fact table to SID tables. That is going away with BW4HANA as well. So now you're linking from your DSO directly to the SID tables. Similar concept, but again, it is from an object type perspective, it is a star schema. You can still have master data via info objects. Those are optional. You can choose to have info objects or not have info objects. You can use field-based modeling, which allows agility in developing a data flow rapidly. But of course, if you have data you want to reuse across models, using info objects is still a best practice with BW4HANA for utilizing that same let's say customer master across all your objects where you have a customer in your system. Okay, I will open up as well for anybody who wants to have a question and they want to ask it instead. So you should be able to ask your questions now outside of the chat. Okay, see some more questions here in the chat. Okay, so data modeling of a snapshot scenario. Okay, so if you want to do a snapshot scenario, you can still do that in BW4HANA. The modeling, the objects that you will use will be slightly different. Again, you can do that using advanced TSO and build a snapshot of existing, either based on a query or based on a snapshot that you generate with a data load. So it hasn't really changed. If you want to assist as a version of a snapshot, you still have to build that into your modeling. Top changes regarding standard extractors. So there's not a lot of changes to standard extractors. Some of the new HANA or BW4HANA optimized content does have some new extractors that it relies on, but that is more, the extractor development is more related to the version that you have in your ECC system. So if you are on S4HANA, most of the extractors are set that you have been using up till now will still be working. If you will not, and then they haven't really, they don't change a whole lot. What they are doing with those extractors is if the underlying tables have changed, they will. So SAP is kind of shielding you from that by developing CDS views that are being used by the extractors instead. But the extractor itself will still operate the same way as it did before. And complex variables, I'm not sure what you mean by complex variables. So again, you still have the user exit variables available in BW4HANA. So that still allows you to create variables and use the ABAP workbench to build logic for how those variables are being processed. That hasn't really changed. So that all of that capability is still there in BW4HANA. And then what standard extractors have had issues in BW4HANA. Again, there's a list of a few extractors that are not supported. Mainly the old LIS extractors are not supported with BW4HANA. It's more tied in with the ODP framework of what is supported with BW4HANA and what is not supported, as all the extraction processes from SAP systems is going via ODP and not just straight to the service API. So there's an SAP note, I can find that and add that to the presentation, and you will be able to download the presentation tomorrow on our website. Okay, any questions from the people on the phone?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Hi, Jesper. Thanks a lot for the presentation. We currently run BCS version 2.1 BW 7.5 right now. I was looking at the product matrix at SAP site. I don't find any compatible BCS version for BW for HANA. Do you know anything about that?
That's correct. So at this point, BPC is just released to be supported on BW4HANA, and there's a new BPC for HANA specific version that is supported.
Yeah,
and
that was BPC 11, but I was talking about BCS.
BCS is not supported on BW4HANA, and it is not in the roadmap today to be supported. So that's
okay.
As it looks, if you're relying on that, you'll probably not be able to convert your system anytime soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, there's another question on the phone.
Oh, hi, Jesper. This is, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, Jesper, this is Jasmine Bindra. Question is regarding the data temperature management. So in your presentation today, you mentioned about that, that you can use a data temperature management as part of the BW4 HANA modeling. So the question is that in your experience, do you know how much performance degradation is going to happen if we plan to use the what you call the data temperature management modeling?
Yeah, so we have done that at a couple of clients, and what we are seeing is comparing that to NLS. We are seeing so they had an existing NLS solution on SAP IQ, and comparing to that, it's about 2 to 3 times faster than NLS. And again, it depends on how oversubscribed you are on your on your system. So you can oversubscribe your extension nodes 200%, which means that if you are oversubscribing that, it means you'll never have, or it's likely that you will not have the data in memory at any point in time for what you're accessing, and that then it's likely it has to load it from disk. But that process has been improved in the latest support packages quite rapidly, and we're seeing that that was in a couple of support packages ago. We tested that, and that's a 2 to 3 times faster than SAP IQ. And I would think that it's probably even 5 times faster now than SAP IQ. So still it's still faster than what we have seen with SAP IQ to use that process, and then you don't have to manage that secondary database, which has been a big problem at a lot of companies.
Okay, great, thanks. My question was in relation to the hot data. It means like the data stored in main memory. If if it's 20% or 50% slower or 100% slower.
Okay, so we compared to that as well, and it really it varied depending if the data was had already been loaded from disk to memory, or what complexity you had in that in the queries that we're executing. But sometimes it was maybe 2 to 3 times slower than if we had just accessed the data hot in HANA. And sometimes we didn't see a big difference because the data was already in memory, so it was loaded from disk.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, another question. From Antonio. Antonio, are you still there? Okay. One of the things we're offering is a, and I'll just mention this, one of the things we offer is a free HANA readiness workshop session where we come out to your site and to your company, and we go through all the things that you can do with HANA, and we can cover pretty much anything from S4HANA, ECC on HANA, BW4HANA, BW powered by HANA in that a one-day session. And we normally go through that with your team and help build a roadmap for how you can move to either BW4HANA, BW powered by HANA, S4HANA, ECC on HANA, etc. So that's something that we offer. It's a one-day workshop, so you don't have to spend a lot of time, and out of that you generally we generally provide a detailed roadmap of how you can get from where you are today to a HANA footprint or a HANA implementation, either for BW or ECC. So that's something we offer. You can contact me, or you can contact sales@comerc.com, and we will get in touch with you and help you out setting up some of these workshops. Okay, I think we will close the webinar then. Thank you for attending. I hope it was informative. We have other webinars coming up. in the future, please look at our website and you'll see the dates. And thank you for joining and have a good day.